Okay, I'll flip my camera here. This is my office. Yay. And this is one of our office dogs. Another great thing about manufacturing, there's a lot of manufacturing dogs out there. So over here, we've got a couple of our manufacturing inventory managers here and our manufacturing and inventory help. They're doing some counting of some stock we just got in. And I sort of have to do these tours backwards because the very first thing when I come out of my office that I have is our packaging. And it always looks the messiest because it's the final step when we bundle all of our cut pieces and all of our manufactured pieces and we get ready to put them in boxes. But here you can see that we've got all these little carbon tubes. I'm not even sure what these are going to be used for. I think these might be industrial rollers so that other fibers can go over it. So this is where it all ends up. But one of our manufacturing cells starts over here. So this is our roll wrapping department. And this is our cutting table. It's a CNC machine. And so what we do is we've got pre-pregged carbon fiber here. You can kind of see it, it's behind the plastic. And we roll it out on this machine and we've got a program so that we can cut the flags, that pattern I was talking about, very specifically and very efficiently on this table so that we can then use them to roll around those mandrels. Here's a flag, a really large one actually, and some smaller ones cut there. You can see that carbon weave, that's a twill weave there. And this piece of fabric has resin in it. It was recently frozen, probably just earlier this morning. And then we wrap those around mandrels. We don't have any production going right now. It is still lunchtime, so there's not a whole lot happening. These are steel mandrels. You can see they're a steel pole. They're heavy. They're very precisely ground. So our customers want a precise inner diameter. We're going to take those flags and use these machines. These are pneumatic rolling tables, and they apply consistent pressure to the flags and the mandrels to wrap them around those steel mandrels. Then we're going to take it through this machine, which is another pneumatic machine. You can see all these blue lines running everywhere. And it's going to wrap cellophane tape around that tube. And then let's see if I've got one here. I've got some hanging up in my oven here. The oven run isn't quite ready yet. So, if you can see if those are really shiny, that's carbon wrapped around a steel mandrel hanging in our oven. And it's got the cellophane tape around it. That compaction tape is going to keep that resin from just dripping off of the end of the tube there. So what happens is we put these guys in here, the oven takes it up to temperature and all of that resin liquefies and then sort of goes throughout all of the carbon fiber layers equally so that you've got a homogeneous, like totally solid tube. And then we take that steel mandrel out and we take that cellophane tape off. And then usually we've got to trim it a little bit, cut it down. And then you can see the lines that the cellophane tape made. You've got a finished tube here that is really lightweight and has a bunch of specific properties, right? So it's got a precise inner diameter. Maybe it's tapered to a precise level. It's got a different wall thickness based on what the customer wants. And so we have a few other operations here. So that's just the roll wrapping. We've also got, see all of these big bins of carbon. This is all carbon. We custom cut. I think we've got some getting ready here. This is our saw room where we custom cut everything. So everything we do cut or trimmed in one way or another, and they trimmed down to shorter lengths. So maybe they're going to be used as spacers for some sort of scientific equipment or measuring equipment. One way or the other, they've all got to be cut. We've got all of our measuring systems here. laser measuring. We've got a bunch of micrometers. We built this saw table. So just about every piece of equipment we've either built from scratch or we've modified. You can see that we've got all sorts of ducting in here. Cutting things creates a lot of dust, and carbon dust is really fine. And so we don't want anyone to breathe that in. So in addition to all the PPE, we suit up in, but we've also got these dust systems to keep it from being too awful in here. We do a bunch of other processes as well. This is one of our two big grinders here. So if you've got a carbon rod or a carbon tube and you want a specific outer diameter, we can grind that specifically. You can see here we do some big tubes too. I think these are about 4 inches in diameter. Those ones are a couple inches. So you can see in my hands, pretty big stuff. You can also see on our grinders that carbon sludge gets everywhere. So when you're grinding off the outside, you're creating that fine dust, and we use a coolant to keep that dust from going into the air, but it's just sludgy everywhere. This is a big reason that a lot of the other machine shops don't want to work with carbon. We're using a lot of the same machines that any other machine shop would have. We've got several lathes here. We've got our mill, also very sludgy. But if you're working on airplane metal parts, you don't want a bunch of carbon sludge on them. So we do get most of the carbon machining. A little bit ago, there were some carbon parts here that had some nice notches out of them, but they've already moved on to packaging, I see. So we've got a machine shop. A lot of them are CNC. We do a lot of computer-aided design. So a customer will often tell us, hey, here's what I need. I need a notch, or I need it ground to a specific outer diameter, or I need it a hole drilled or 7 holes drilled. And so we'll mock those up with design software and program them into the machine and run a lot of tests, and gotten pretty good at some of those things. Here's a set of machines that we're really proud of. Another one that we made up all by ourselves. So this line here, that's raw carbon. So that's carbon fiber. It comes on these bobbins, just like thread or yarn, except that it's carbon fibers, thousands of them. They're incredibly strong, and they're all oriented in one direction. So we take them up and we run them through a resin bath and this series of ovens, which again, we made all of this, lots of controls we've had to figure out so that we can run it all at the right speed. And at the end of the line here, we've got carbon rod. And that carbon rod is gonna come around. It's being pulled. There is a pneumatic saw that is gonna cut that piece off here in a little bit at about 12 foot. And then we're going to take it and probably chop it down further, however the customer might want us to. But we made this machine as well. So when you're looking at small manufacturers, you're really looking at a lot of people who are doing a lot of different jobs. It's not just staying on one machine all the time. It's doing a lot of different machines, a lot of different things, and bringing your own creativity to the job. We've got a lot of machines that we have added to. You know, this is an old, really old lathe, but our production manager redid it and added some pieces and made it so that it's now a composites wrapping machine. So there's a lot of different things you can do when you work in small manufacturing that you might not be able to do in a large manufacturer. You know, you can work on a bunch of different machines and see a bunch of different things. So I'm going to flip my camera back around here, back to my office, and that's the tour. I'm happy to take any questions anyone has.